Yeah, we're rolling. Great.
Yeah, well, welcome everybody to another episode of That's Just Ridiculous, as yet untitled, because as you know, we don't rehearse anything. We just go on here and we talk, and we don't rehearse.
Yeah, and this week, actually, we've organised it so that we're 4,000 miles apart.
Yes.
But we're still on for it.
It's
8 o'clock in the morning with me and about 4 in the afternoon for Paul.
It's a measure of how well we're getting on at the moment. The guy is nearly at the other side of the world. But, you know, that's good.
It's a beautiful morning here. Thank you, Garnet. It's a beautiful morning here. I'm in Jamaica. It's really hot. The summer's coming in. The mangoes are beginning to fall. The avocado pears are coming. And all is well in my world. Give me some bad news about London, England, rather.
Oh, well, you know, Trump's here. What more do you want?
Yeah, I saw that hasn't really made the news here, except the international news, obviously. But they're not interested in that. They don't really like him here.
Trump's gridlocked London
policy is that it's really going to make it harder for a lot of Jamaicans to get up there, because they're moving it in America from a family-based system into a qualification-based system. So that now, if your mum goes up there, or your brother goes up there, or one of your family members gets up to America, he can basically hoik the rest of you up there, or she can. Whereas it's going to become harder and harder for people to get in who haven't got some A-level college degree or something. It's going to really discriminate against a lot of countries which don't have such good education services as others.
Yeah, well, you know, why would you want to go to fucking Trump's America anyway?
Well, that's the extraordinary thing is, because the ones who go up there all seem to get quite rich.
Right.
You know, and the story coming back is like it's not really the story that I recognise of America at all, where I see a lot of incredibly poor people. But the story you get of America from this village is that it's a place where people go and, without a huge amount of effort, amass, you know, a fair wedge. and I don't understand. I don't understand how these two stories coexist.
Yeah, but isn't it, Guy? Isn't it a bit like if you go and see a band, right, and you pay 56 quid for a ticket, right, and they're fucking shit? You're not going to come out of there and say, "Yeah, I paid 56 quid for a shit ticket to see a shit band." You're just going to go on about how fucking brilliant they are. It's human nature, isn't it?
Particularly as things surface from the past that kind of bubble out of the kind of murky subconscious and bubble to the surface of my sort of black pond of reality. An awful toe-curling event from my past. It can go back way back.
Yeah, me too.
Years.
They come flashing into your consciousness. It's horrific.
Like a great big silver fish coming out of the muddy water towards me.
It's the snout, yeah.
As it goes past me.
Looming.
Just a terrible surge of shame.
Looming out of the darkness, out of the abyss.
Yeah.
I was saying to my friend the other day, my other friend, I have got another one, Guy, by the way, you should know that. I've been making friends while you've been away. But I said to him the other day, do you ever wish you could just erase some of them? Just some of the memories? Because as you get older, there are so many. And it does feel a little bit like you've been walking across a muddy field, doesn't it? In really big flares.
Oh.
Sometimes.
Yeah. I get it a lot. I get it a lot in the morning after I've been drinking the night before.
Oh, it's the killer.
But it's not normally, Paul, as something that I did the night before, although that obviously does occur. It's more something that I did when I was 13.
Yeah. It's horrific. What is that? The brain is evil and must be destroyed, in fact. Guy, what are you doing? Pronk, what are you doing? This is appalling. What the fuck's going on?
I'm really losing you here.
Where are you?
I was hearing you fine, and then I just lost you. We've not really got it back.
I've turned the subtitles on. Hello?
Well, she didn't make a blind bit of difference.
Oh, no, I can hear you now.
I hate the little red heart they give me.
I sent that.
It's a pulsing heart.
Yeah, I've got subtitles now.
Oh, that's amazing.
I've got subtitles.
I'm actually hearing you properly now, which is great. Okay, so where were we?
Go to more options, Guy.
Yeah.
Go to more options and turn subtitles on.
Okay, hold on. Turn subtitles on.
Right, now watch this.
This is a ludicrous thing.
No, it's good. This is us exploring technology like two old people.
Yeah. Bloody hell, it's pretty accurate, isn't it?
It's pretty good, isn't it? Fuck you, you tosser. Did it get that? Knob.
But actually, are you getting my... why have I got porn written on it?
Penis vent. Cock shaft.
I think it's, when you say cock shaft, it got. But I think it's having trouble with your northern accent.
Fuck off, it's not my northern accent. It's your Ponce accent. Why are you back on? Why can I see you again?
Paul, can I ask you something?
Yeah.
This is your Pumps accent. Oh, for goodness sake, this is absolutely bonkers.
Well, turn that off, then.
You get my words at the bottom of your page?
No, I've turned it off. I can see your face again now.
Oh, right, okay.
You're looming in. Like
I've got to turn this nonsense off.
Jesus Christ, this is terrible.
I'm going to unblur my background.
Yeah, all right, unblur your background. Guy?
No. Yeah, can you hear me now?
Guy, can you blur the foreground and not the background? You've gone now. You've disappeared. That's good. Now we're good. Don't touch anything. Okay, that's good. You can hear me, can you? I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh yeah, that's much better. It's much better.
So when what the thing is, right? I don't like Trump, right, and it's annoying, but I can't help thinking that a lot of the people who are protesting him are really fucking annoying, aren't they?
Yeah, well, I don't know, Paul. When I read this stuff of like, this is like fascism in the 30s, I think, God, is it? Am I actually just sitting back and being amused by Hitler's rise? Or is it nothing like the rise of Hitler? And I kind of feel it's the nothing of rise. It's not the rise of Hitler, and we don't have to worry too much about it. And basically, he's understood that it's about entertainment. Yeah. And I'm just happy to be entertained by the man.
He's more like Schitler than Hitler. He's not. I mean, he's not very convincing, is he?
Yeah.
I mean, I find him laughable, and I think a lot of other people do too. So I think the entertainment thing is about right, actually.
Yeah, and also, the setting that he's risen out of is so different from 30s Germany, where there was so much less information. It was so much easier to control them.
Yeah,
and. They weren't all desperate like the Germans were before the war or between the wars.
Us guy, you mean, not them.
They're fairly rich and well off. They're not going to do something insane like that. So I don't think he is really that dangerous a character. I just think he's kind of old fashioned, and he's the last shake of the the old era, and he's going out with a bit of style.
I think he's a wanker.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not saying that, and I'm not saying that to demean him. I actually do. I think he's just a fucking wanker, and who's got lucky. It's all about self-promotion. It's all about getting themselves into the limelight, getting themselves into a position where they can be on a circuit later in life and make money for, make 80 grand a pop doing after dinner speeches or whatever it is that they all go into, and being.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in that case, in fact, you've answered a question I've long wondered the answer to, which is why on earth would you become a politician nowadays? But you say it's to make money when you retire. Yeah, I can see that.
I mean, look, if Tony Blair can be made a peace envoy for the Middle East, then that ought to tell you that you can fucking pretty much do what you want once you come out of a position of power in government. There is no logic to it, is there? So
no. Well, it's they kind of. I tell you what I did see, Paul. I don't know if you saw it this week. A thing saying that when we leave the EU, we're going to lose access. I don't know what it means by lose access to 100 billion euros of science research funding. I think it meant that we wouldn't get such a preferential access to it. Not necessarily lose it all, but anyway, we're going to have more trouble getting hold of some money. And I read the piece. It was in the Guardian, and I thought the reason that I feel ambivalent about this is that this huge amount of research that has been going under the aegis of the EU for the last 10 or 20 years. It's kind of got us into a total mess environmentally and financially. and that I'm not. It seems that heavy investment in kind of corporate academic worlds and projects is like, why do we really care if we lose some of that investment? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I know what you're saying. Like things like CERN. I may be wrong. This is off the top of my head, but I think CERN cost $23 billion to build.
Do you think it's a good thing?
And the running costs are extraordinarily high. I mean, it's like, we're talking about many, many billions of pounds.
And the question I put to you, because you're one of the few people who can actually answer this, is it a good thing to be doing, do you think?
What, CERN?
Or should that money have been spent on green agriculture, for instance?
Well, I think so, because what I don't understand exactly what it is that CERN is...
God, you're joking. If you don't understand, Paul, who the hell does?
Well, I don't. I really don't. I maybe Keith knows, but I mean, it's like when they said they discovered the Higgs boson. When you listen really carefully to the press releases they put out, it's very, very... they're really carefully worded, and I don't know that I've ever heard them say, we've definitely discovered X, Y, or Z. And I might be wrong about that, but to me it seems like a very, very expensive project, and one that hasn't yielded a great deal of results, particularly in terms of the market. I mean, that's how everything's measured these days. What products have come out of CERN for the enormous costs? I mean, I don't know what the research is for. That's what I'm beginning to wonder, because it costs so much fucking money to do.
In which case, we do know what the research is for. It's to give money to the corporations and the people who are doing the research,
who are involved in building it. Yeah, and that's what I started to think. And
and you know something is that if they can bamboozle you with science, they can bamboozle pretty well everyone else. And they arrive with all their workings on a piece of paper and a nice PowerPoint presentation. Yeah. And it feels good for the politicians to give them this money, and it feels very difficult to deny it, because you look like some kind of Mormon or kind of Christian scientist kind of nutter if you don't support a kind of advanced research. It looks like you're trying to sort of head us back into the past. But I don't think that enough. I know for certain that not enough has gone into things like the Soil Association, and not enough gone into the destruction of the environment. When you compare to what's gone into CERN, to the Moon Project,
the Large Hadron Collider, right? They're saying. I mean, I've read other things that said it was over 20 billion, but this on Forbes reckons that the Large Hadron Collider, it cost 13.5 billion to discover the Higgs boson, and I just think, well, what the fuck does that mean? What do we get for our money for the 13.5 billion that we've spent doing that? It just seems weird.
People, but even if they had just speculate that they had discovered it, or they had made a discovery about it, what really the fuck does that mean? Because while we're looking so intently in that direction, behind us is approaching a huge and dangerous monster about to completely wipe us out.
Exactly.
And while we're staring at this fascinating thing on the
floor,
dish, something awful is walked in behind us, and I feel that we should turn around and just address that.
It's completely insane. It is completely insane. I agree with you. And this is. I do have a problem. Look, the other thing is that everyone goes on now about science a lot, right? And this is the problem we've got. This, I think, is at the heart of some of the stuff with populism, is that people say, well, actually, where has science got us? Science gave us plastics. Science gave us nuclear power. All the fruits of science, apart from iPhones, obviously, and driving around in cars, as far as people are concerned, it's also brought us a lot of heartache and a lot of pain, and it's kind of ruined the environment. So, of course, people are suspicious now of scientists, and they're suspicious of their motives. And it's completely understandable.
I concur with what you say. I noticed that there's a lot of promotions in the town here for fertilizer and pesticides. Some of them from Monsanto. And I do, and I think, they can get away with that here. People are not really yet so wary, but it is a bit depressing. And Trump's genius. I don't know if do you remember the 767 Max, the American Boeing plane that a computer fault crashed.
737, the 737 Max.
About a month ago.
Yeah.
And Trump said, it was kind of easier in the old days when you didn't have all these computers. He definitely struck a chord in my mind.
Yes. But you can't fly these new planes and you can't have the energy efficiency that they have. You can't fly a size of plane like that without fly-by-wire. It's just not possible. So they're controlled by computers. And they're all locked into all the air traffic systems as well. So, there's no way back, really.
No, God. I wonder if there is. Well, except through cataclysm.
Well, and then apparently, if you think that way, you're a catastrophist, which I do understand as well. It's not good to think like that because then everything gets like that. You told me that. You said, you can't think that way because. But the problem is, maybe we do need to start thinking that way because it's fucking mental. I mean, I don't understand why. It's like one of the things they do at CERN is they accelerate particles to massive velocities and energies, and then smack them into things. And then they say, well, yeah, these experiments mimic what's happening in the upper atmosphere. I mean, I remember years ago a friend of mine saying that the bill and casualty existed to stop actors from committing suicide. Perhaps CERN exists to stop scientists from committing suicide. I don't know. I think it should be closed down, really. Closed down, CERN.
The point of it. I know I'm sounding terribly kind of boring and Brexity, but it does have the whiff of a bit of an EU white elephant, a bit of an EU project with a lot of men in suits drinking a glass of wine and, at a big opening and taking photographs for a very dull magazine. It's just like, I don't know. Paul,
but maybe it's an artwork. Maybe CERN is an artwork. And let's face it, the people who are working on CERN, right, they're nuclear physicists. So let's say they didn't have jobs at CERN. Where would they be working and for whom? Perhaps it's safer to keep them all there at CERN, basically keyboard clacking, than to have them go off and do whatever the fuck they want in Saudi Arabia. Maybe that's the point.
Right. I thought they would be working in B&Q though, rather than for Blofeld. But
maybe they would be. Maybe we need to get somebody on and talk to them about it. Somebody who knows what it's about.
I bet we can't find anyone because if you don't know what it's about, for goodness sake, who's going to know what it's about? That's the thing, is that nobody knows what it's about. So what else has been going on there? What's the weather been like here in Britain? What are the people like in Britain? What's going on there?
It's shit. It's all right. I did see your ex the other day, though, Guy, and she accused me of being your bitch.
No comment.
In front of the builders.
Oh, that's nice. You are, Paul, you are my comrade, my friend, and my equal, and we stand shoulder to shoulder. And I don't like that imagery at all. But there we go. Let's move off this subject. I'm feeling uneasy. So I have been going on sobriety benders.
Have you?
And it's quite difficult here not to go on a bender, actually. I mean, you think the pressures are great in Britain. I mean, it's nothing like here. You go into a bar, you're really not expected to leave within about 4 hours, or you're a bit of a party pooper. And in that time, you're drinking basically, well, there's nothing else to drink but rum. Actually, I've been drinking Campari. But I've been sneaking off, telling people I'm somewhere else, and going back home, keeping the lights off, and just sitting down in the dark, and it's been so nice.
Basically hiding.
Hiding, and spending some time on my own and looking up at the sky, and it's been a really good break.
It's been really fucking boring. So, but the next up, obviously, on the social calendar, is the Pilton Pop Festival, aka Glastonbury Festival. Something wicked this way comes. Today, I had a look at the list of performers that's on there, and
Quite a big list, isn't it?
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it. There must be a couple of 100,000 people there just in the performers list, isn't there? How many people are there on that list? I mean,
I was just thinking, Paul, actually, what would you say? There's probably about 700 bands there, are there? Would you say as a rough idea?
Yeah.
And I would say being on that list denotes that you are a live musician of some standing. Wouldn't you say that?
Oh, in some cases.
because the thing is that they cover almost every single genre. They don't cover classical, perhaps, but in kind of live contemporary music, all bases are covered.
I would guess that there's an attempt made, definitely. Although I did think that probably the same personnel are involved in some of the bands, and I also thought that I definitely noticed that some of the bands are playing more than once, all up and down the festival. So they tend to get their money's worth.
Sense.
Yeah.
So tell me, of those bands, there are some American bands there, there's some British bands there. How many bands would you say are from the European Union, apart from the British ones?
Oh, God, here we go. I don't know, Guy.
Why can they produce no decent music?
Well, there are people who would argue with that, with that statement. I mean, I've been kind of a fan of certain genres of French music, French electronica, and and I do like French pop music from the 60s and 70s.
But surely they've got a tent doing that kind of thing, haven't they? They have quite esoteric tents, don't they, nowadays?
I didn't see any of that.
Right.
Maybe they just...
I assume there was something stuffed away on the side where some few German punks were doing something to a man with a computer.
No, not German punks. I'm thinking of things like Francois Hardy and Johnny Halliday, and I mean, there's quite a big list, and what's his name? What was his name? Talk like this.
Charles Aznavour.
Not Charles Aznavour. I want to fuck you.
Oh, Serge Gainsbourg.
Serge Gainsbourg. We need more of that coming from France. What's happening? Yeah. I saw a thing the other day that said that the EU cannot interfere with national identity. Did you think that's true or not?
At the same time, Barney is saying the thing about the English is that they've become very nostalgic and they're backwards looking. Yeah. And I thought, how can you at one time say that it's to protect the identity and then to absolutely, to be so critical and so negative about a very important part of British identity, which is, surprise, surprise, the last 100 years of our history. Because unlike the Belgians, unlike the French, unlike the Germans, it's been quite a good 100 years. Theirs has been shite. So it's obvious that they want to kind of wipe it away and get on with it. But it really, and I just thought, Barney, you're absolutely not listening.
Yes, but it's not been a great 100 years for the environment, has it, Guy?
No, that's absolutely true.
It's been fucking terrible. So, you can't have it both ways. It's not. Yeah. We're not talking about. The point is, it cannot be "I'm all right, Jack" anymore. That's what they're saying. We can't do that anymore. It has to be a collective effort. That's what I think the message is. But then you go a little bit further than that, and you get people saying things like, "The enemy is borders and national identities. That as long as there are national identities, as long as there are borders, there will be wars, and that has to be removed in order to move forward." But then, of course, everybody denies that there's a bigger project along those lines. But I think ultimately, a lot of them do think that way. It's a secularist and an anti-nationalist view of the human race, isn't it?
Absolutely, Paul. And I just think that it's admirable in its way, and I can see how effective it would be. But the thing is, thank God, human beings have deep and wonderful tribal kind of calls within them.
You like
they
that? They
have sexual calls, which again are trying to be papped down and wiped out and removed because they're quite inconvenient now with us all living so close together. Mm-hmm. But I just think it's a miserable project to remove the tribal fun and the tribal appetites and the tribal unreasonableness. I mean, obviously that they're allowed to show it a bit with things like footy, but in terms of a national tribe, I think it's I think it's miserable to say we can no longer afford that.
No, that's what they're doing, though, Guy. You hit the nail on the head there, because what they're doing is they're not getting rid of it. They're standardising it so that it becomes so it's not dangerous.
And I just think that is a miserable way forward, because it's a really important part of us, that aggression. And it is sometimes horrible and sad and violent and nasty, and other times it is absolutely beautiful and exciting and dangerous.
Well, I think war is the thing, isn't it? People are trying to avoid, by and large. It's the thing that they always come back to, and they say, "Look, we don't want any wars." But if you think about that, then that is ultimately going to mean, well, it has to mean that there has to be nothing to fight over. And if there's nothing to fight over, it basically means that there will not be any borders anymore. There will not be any national identities. There will not be any equalities, because those are what wars are fought over. Then,
I mean, there are 2 points about that. One is that when you say nobody wants any wars, it's a very challengeable statement. Loads of people want wars. Lots of men and some women love
a bit of a war,
fighting.
Yeah.
But I do think lots of people want war, and I think that that should, instead of being denied, it should be understood. I would think more, maybe make a place on Earth where they can go and a kind of war zone.
Well, we do that. That's exactly what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have them somewhere else.
It's been a very important part of our national character to have people going off and killing people, and some to come back dead themselves. It's a really important part of our national character.
So can I get to the bottom of this? Are you suggesting that this is something that we need to carry on with then?
I think that I think it's in us. I think that you carry on with it until it's not there. And I think lots of people want to be violent, and just like, what are you going to do? Just on them, squash them. It's like we're human beings. You know, you can't just legislate with a kind of EU directive or a British government directive that we suddenly all behave ourselves and are nice to each other.
But that's what laws are, Guy. Right. That's what laws are.
Yeah, but you know, you're right. But at some point, laws go snap, and they just take the law into their own hands. When we're talking about when they fight, basically, isn't it true?
We're talking about civilization slipping back into the fucking dark ages. If we remove the rule of law, and there are international laws governing even the activity of war, but what you're suggesting is that laws are an inconvenience and should be got rid of.
Yeah, well, Paul, I when I see the millennials or the generation who are in their 20s now, they do seem to me less aggressive and more cooperative than we were. I mean, well, I was coming of age at the time of punk, which was quite aggressive and not at all cooperative. This lot all seem much more compliant and much more willing to work as a team.
And you find that sad, don't you?
They what?
You find that a little bit sad, don't you?
That's such a good thing to say, Paul, because I do actually. But at the same time, I completely understand that it's their way and it's probably the best way, because my way is, it is a bit destructive. It is a bit destructive. But what I want to know, Paul, is are they genuinely expressing their real emotions the way my generation were in punk, or are they suppressing them? Have they been told, if you don't get along and if you don't get your nose down, you'll basically never get a house and you'll never get a car, or the awful financial consequences? What do you think?
Well, I don't think they'll get one anyway. That's the first thing. The way things are going, they're going to have a brazier and a piece of brown land to sit on and a rat to put on the brazier. You don't like punk anyway, so how dare you cite punk as something positive? Because you don't even fucking like it.
The thing is that the punks weren't affected. I don't think they were affected. I think they were angry and they were pissed off, and they. I think I wasn't angry and pissed off because I was doing fine, thanks, in 1978.
Well, they were angry and pissed off for a little while. Do you know what really pissed me off today?
Tell me.
I went today into Tesco's to buy some paper and pens, and I must have looked at 60 or even more for use as notebooks. Every single fucking one of them had lines in it.
Yes, yes, I know. I know what you mean. Actually, I quite like lines, but it used to be the other way around. Actually, I could never find a. You can always find a school-lined one, but a kind of nice one with lines. I used to find hard to find. The kind of moleskin, the sort of smart middle-class ones, don't have lines on them.
Tossers. That's what they're doing. They're regimenting everything. They're programming everything, and I think
because if we're not. There's not enough space for us all to live, and there's not enough resources. It has to be divvied out more carefully. People have to be more cooperative. That's the problem. Is that the era of us just swaggering around doing what the hell we wanted is over because we've kind of fucked the place.
Yeah, and if we carry on doing it, Guy, that everyone's going to hate us. Hey up.
Yeah.
Here's Ray. Hello, Ray.
All right, but whose car is that out there, the grey one?
The grey one?
Yeah.
He's
in the way.
Is it an estate car?
Small one.
Oh, it might be mine. I'll move it.
A little one.
I'll be right out, Ray.
All right, brother.
Thank you, brother. Cheers, brother.
That guy is that guy Ray. He's a very good example, actually, of I'm afraid what the world, what can no longer really be going on in the world, because he's totally lawless.
He's
instinctive. He's uncompliant to the most. There is no one I know in Britain who is less compliant than Ray. Have you seen the vehicles that he drives?
I know, they're unbelievable.
How does he do that?
I don't know what he does. I think he must register them as circus vehicles or something, so he doesn't have to MOT them. But they're just fucking insane. And he's a complete maverick. I'm not exaggerating. He looks terrifying for a start. He's completely unkempt, wild looking.
He's our local grave digger. And he also does local ground works. And also he's a dry stone waller. He's a very good waller.
Anyway, more power to him, I say. I mean, I know what you're saying, guy, and I have to say, maybe it's because I'm old-fashioned, but I tend to fall on your side of the fence.
Yeah, he does